And blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436. 580-KIDO. It is the day before the big Boise Music Festival, and we are so pumped up to be a part of it. Of course, Robin Thicke, Baby Bash, not to be confused with Baby Back. My friend Betsy wanted to correct me on that. She goes, "Do you know called Baby Bash, Baby Back?" And I go, "Well, maybe I had ribs on my mind." Anyway, tomorrow, Expo Idaho, it's going to be outstanding. We can't wait to be there. Hope you got your tickets. You can still get them. KIDOTalkRadio.com for more information. And also, God and Country coming up. That will be, again, on Tuesday. We're looking forward to that in Nampa, Idaho. And Nampa could be the home of the next fulfillment center for our friends at Amazon. Now, from what I've read, we love Amazon and stuff, but it is a tough gig to work for them. They treat people just like machines and such. So that would be good. Lots of jobs. Hopefully those folks will be taken care of on that. Other issues that we talked about, you heard from our 5 a.m. hour, the issue involving Canada and whether or not the Canadians did the right thing by legalizing marijuana. And that always is a hot topic, and sometimes we get to it, sometimes we don't. So if you have a thought on that, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Other news of the day, the president has continued on with trying to make sure that people look things and put things in the proper perspective. And he's standing up to the great blue wave that is coming. And do you agree with the policy that he's, implemented? And that was, let's stand down for a little. Let's have the First Lady come in. Let's cool things off. But we'll see just how long that lasts. And by the way, the president had this to say about the upcoming blue wave.
With respect to the blue wave, which is turning out, frankly, to be a red wave if you look at the polls. I think we're going to have a red wave, not a blue wave.
Exactly. What do you think?
Now, all of a sudden, they're big open border people. It's a whole big con job. In the meantime, people are suffering because of the Democrats.
Exactly.
We're getting some real beauties. Mexico is doing nothing for us except taking our money and sending us drugs. They're doing nothing. They could solve this problem in 2 minutes. You wouldn't even have to do anything. But they don't do it. They talk a good game, but they don't do it.
We're going to talk about that topic here in a minute. And actually, as early as it is, that might be the clip for the day for the Miller Minute. Yesterday, if you heard that during Sean Hannity's show or maybe later on with Lars Larson, I was joking. This week, the Miller Minute has become the Trump Minute. And I don't think we've ever seen anything like this, where we've had one president continue not only to dominate the news cycle, but to initiate the news cycle. And look, we live in the Treasure Valley, one of the most dominant, most tolerant places on God's green earth. When you think of people coming to Idaho, people go, well, it's not Iowa to begin with. You have, what's the big news yesterday? The floating season. In other places, they're dealing with shootings and tragedies and all sorts of things. Of course, we do have our challenges here when it comes to affordable housing, and we'll delve into that in a second. But when it comes to being tolerant, when it comes to being accepting, there is no state that exceeds this great state of Idaho. And so when you have the issue of the president talking about this, if we lived in a state with a lot of anxiety, and I don't mean to wah-wah or womp-womp with you, but at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, this is, and let me again allow this disclaimer, this is not about me, but this is the most challenging job that I've ever had in talk radio. I've been doing this for almost 24 years. I've been here almost 9 years. It is the most challenging. And why do you say that, Kevin Miller? Because there's not a lot of unrest. Sure, you have some people that are wondering if the rainbow flags are ever going to come down in downtown Boise, considering Pride Fest, Pride Week was last week? How long are those going to be up? And you have some people that are saying, does this represent the entire city of Boise? Does this represent the entire state? And if it was a conservative group, if a veterans group, it was something like that, would the city do the same thing and embrace that? And you'll have some people making up things about me for having enough guts to come out and say that. Okay, this is just how tolerant we are. There's not a lot of unrest. People here work hard. Heck, I know a place where one of their bathrooms has been shut down, and people have to walk up 3 flights of stairs to go to the restroom, and people just kind of take it. And that's not a knock on anybody. It just shows you how tolerant our community is. Now, when you do talk radio, you're supposed to fire it up, stir it up. People here, they don't like that. They like to have proper discussions. So you can't just say, hey, what do you think? Well, you can, but that's not very compelling. So when you have the president saying this statement that he just said, he's going to be condemned. He's going to be called racist. And you do have a situation, and we've documented it with our friends from FAIR, with our friends from everybody else at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And we will be going once again to Washington, D.C. to cover this issue, where you have the gangs, you have the narco-terrorists. Remember, you had that guy in Arizona? Kevin, what do you mean, Sheriff Joe? Well, no, he was another sheriff that outed the county outside of Phoenix that there's signs up. It's a natural, a national park, a national forest, that if you go in there, you might get killed. And this is in America. And we've tiptoed around it. We've given everybody access to this country. People that commit real crime. You heard Maria Espinoza yesterday saying that in Idaho, we're the meth capital. In Idaho, this is where the drugs come in. This is where the narco-terrorists make their money. And at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, there's only one person saying what's really happening. Now, again, you have good people and bad people. I worked at a place once that we were threatened that if we talked about illegal immigration, we would lose our jobs because there were people in the building that were illegal immigrants. And, they were working at a radio station. Never mind it's federally licensed and everything else. That's just how it is. And this goes on across the country. So when the president of the United States says this, do you back him or do you condemn him?
I mean, we're getting some real beauties. Mexico is doing nothing for us except taking our money and sending us drugs. They're doing nothing. They could solve this problem in 2 minutes. You wouldn't even have to do anything. But they don't do it. They talk a good game, but they don't do it.
And the Mexican government has had trouble with the Zetas, with MS-13 and others. The New York Times Magazine, I don't know how they did it. They did a brilliant piece on it. There was something on Showtime talking about the drug cartels. It was one of the most fascinating documentaries that I've seen, where they go actually to the drug towns where the people are working the poppy fields. Then they profile the guy that's the boss, the mob boss, and he's just a family guy. And they're, gunfire is going. Then they go to Columbus, Ohio, and deal with people firsthand. So you see both ends of the spectrum. So at 580-5436, 580-KIDO.
I mean, we're getting some real beauties. Mexico is doing nothing for us except taking our money and sending us drugs. They're doing nothing. They could solve this problem in 2 minutes. You wouldn't even have to do anything. But they don't do it. And really, they talk a good game, but they don't do it.
And really, isn't that the case with our whole drug culture in America today? If we wanted to stop the drugs, if we wanted to stop the illegals, all we would have to do is what? Drug test everybody, E-Verify. Real simple. Liberty Linda starts us off this morning at KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM with Kevin Miller in the morning. Good morning, Liberty Linda.
Yes, good morning, Kevin. You cannot make Democrats happy. Kevin, that's because the true goal is to overthrow our government so that they can control the world. And I wanted to apologize for yesterday. I didn't hear Paul Ryan correctly. I actually thought what he said was correct. What he said was a good thing. And then also regarding Canada, Kevin, that's a big no-no, legalizing marijuana. I do not think it's a good thing, and no, it should not happen. So anyway, let's see how long it will last before they turn that over.
Well, what are your thoughts on what the president just said?
In regard to?
Now, Liberty Linda. You just didn't call in just to give your points. Of course, that's what it is. It's talk radio, so here we go.
I mean, we're getting some real beauties. Mexico is doing nothing for us except taking our money and sending us drugs. They're doing nothing. They could solve this problem in 2 minutes. You wouldn't even have to do anything. But they don't do it. They talk a good game, but they don't do it.
Well, our president, I believe, has been correct on everything he says. I don't believe there's anything he said that I don't agree with. What's going on at the border should not be happening in our country. We love people in other lands, but we have to protect our own country. We cannot be bringing in so many people all the time. And so, yes, I agree with our president. I can't think of anything, Kevin, that I actually don't agree with that he says.
Well, he's got the guts to say it.
That's why we love him so much. And, we just have to be really careful about these Democrats, most of them, and because they really aren't for our country. And with everything else going on in our government, how do we keep up with everything? I mean, every single day something is going on that they're trying to pull our government down.
They are. The libs.
That's why we love you so much. We can call in and we can actually talk about these things. There's truth out there. And so anyway, Jeff Sessions, I love Jeff Sessions. He has done a few things. He seems to have set back and let a lot of things go on that he shouldn't have. But I still think he's a very good man. And I think he wants what's good for our country.
I would agree.
And so anyway, that's basically what I wanted to say this morning. And, you have such great callers. The Miller Militia are just wonderful, down-to-earth people. I love hearing them call in. Anyway, you have some of the greatest people calling into your show, Kevin.
Well, you're the leader of the pack. Don't tell that to Tea Party Bob, but yes, we'll give you that one today.
We'll hold our flag up high.
All
just
right.
Positive. That's what we like, positive for the United States of America.
Well, we like you, Liberty Linda. You take care now.
We love you. Okay, talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. Do you support the president when he says Mexico could be doing more and they're not to stop the drugs?
I mean, we're getting some real beauties. Mexico is doing nothing for us except taking our money and sending us drugs. They're doing nothing. They could solve this problem in 2 minutes. You wouldn't even have to do anything. But they don't do it. They talk a good game, but they don't do it.
We'll hear from you next. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be part of your day. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Looks like the governor will not be calling the state legislature back one more time to go over the water rights. Of course, when you have senior water rights, junior water rights, and no water rights, that is a problem. And we're not just talking about our lawns and everything else. It is a challenge in this ever-growing Treasure Valley. We have a finite amount of water, and yet we have people moving in again and again and again. Back to the phones. Do you support the president when he says Mexico could do a few things right now to stop the big problem of drugs? I agree with him. What about you? Good morning, Liberal Steve.
Good morning, Millie. He's off his rocker like usual. Come on. You know how to stop the drugs. People in America stopped using them. Supply and demand. You got a bunch of idiots in the United States that want to snort this stuff up their nose and shoot this stuff in their arms and Well, I shouldn't call them idiots. I should call them a sorry lot. You know, but it does take an idiot to shove a needle in your arm with bad stuff for your body. And so, yeah, if we stop using, they'll stop sending. You know, it's like stop selling groceries at this store, you'll go to another store. Solve it in 2 minutes. And what's with Melania Trump wearing a coat that says, I don't care, do you? God.
Certainly got a lot of people talking.
Yeah, I know it did. What is she gone crazy or something wearing a coat? Well, she did leave it on the plane when she got off in Mexico to go to the little shelter places, but come on. And what Liberty Linda talk about Canada legalizing cannabis? I mean, Come on, that was a year ago that they said they were going to do that. And they did it.
Well, they made it official, though.
Yeah, but who cares? I mean, come on. That's old news. It's just because Idaho hasn't legalized it yet, and Idaho will legalize it. And
Idaho's not gonna legalize it. We will not fall. We will not fall like all of our other states around us.
You are so naive. It's got nothing to do with anything. It's all about money, Miller. And when the money's in place and everything's in place, it'll be legalized, dude. Come on. Wake up and smell the coffee. Jeez. And yeah, in 2 minutes, Idaho could solve it. and come on, Miller. What's with this president saying stuff that he keeps saying over and over and over? He talks like an adolescent child. I don't get it. Why are these deplorables so hooked on him?
Look at the economy. Look at him finally giving a voice to the people that have been marginalized by Obama and the libs. It's a no-brainer.
The economy had 12, 13 years to grow back from 2008. Eventually it was going to boom, and now it's going to crash again eventually. Come on, you got mortgage companies advertising on your radio station. You can get into a house with nothing down on your station. They're doing the same thing, and now they're in town. Oh, come on, Miller. It's a joke.
Says
you know it is.
Well, as Terry from State College, Pennsylvania would say, it's a moral issue, and some of us live by a higher moral standard.
Oh, yeah, right. Moral standard, BS.
Well, maybe for you, sir. Thank you for calling 107.5 FM at 580 AM. 625, Kevin Miller in the morning. Let's get you to work safely and on time.
Gabbard.
We know now that too many people come in for medical care as it is. We certainly don't want them having the same benefits that American citizens are entitled to have.
There you have it, a young Hillary Clinton.
We do not want to do anything to encourage more illegal immigration into this country.
That's before open borders became the big thing. Folks, how many of you remember Charles Krauthammer? You're going, well, Kevin, yeah, he announced recently that he was dying of cancer. Well, the conservative vanguard, the conservative champion, Charles Krauthammer died last night, and whether you read his work all the time, saw him on Fox News or the Big Fox, there won't be another one like Charles Krauthammer. Here is Charles in his own words.
I have a column in the book where I write about the Fermi paradox. Fermi was a great physicist who posed a simple question. We know that there are millions of habitable worlds out there. So there have to be thousands, millions of civilizations. Why have we never heard from any of them? The most plausible explanation is that every time a civilization achieves consciousness and the kind of science that would allow you to transmit a signal, they destroy themselves. And the question is, can we regulate our politics in a way that will allow the human species to flourish and produce all the beautiful stuff?
Charles Krauthammer dead from cancer that he was battling. Charles Krauthammer, one of the folks that when you would turn on the television and Charles was on, everything was going to be okay no matter what. Here's Charles Krauthammer telling us at KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, on the first time he met Barack Obama.
I remember before the president-elect arrived saying, I haven't been able to figure this guy out. Is he a centrist who will occasionally throw a bone to the left? Or is he a lefty who will occasionally throw a bone to the right? Nobody had any ideas. So we spent 3 hours with this new man. He leaves, and we're staying behind a little bit, and I say, same question. Is he a centrist? Is he a lefty? Nobody knew.
You think you've figured him out?
I figured him out after that first State of the Union speech. I was so astonished that I wrote 5 columns in a row on what kind of unusual political animal he was in giving an agenda as radical as any since FDR. He basically said, I'm not here to tinker. I've come here to transform America.
Charles Krauthammer, of course, we will remember him throughout the morning. He was 68 years old, and you talk about making a difference. I wonder if Charles Krauthammer ever realized how much of a difference he made, from people who read his columns to people watching him debate. I can remember the last time I saw him debate a very fiery, emotional Laura Ingraham on Trump himself. And remember, Mr. Krauthammer was not a fan of the president. And I don't know if you know this or not, but he was confined to a wheelchair. Not a lot of people knew that off camera, but having worked a couple conventions, you would see Charles a lot of times by himself studying things, getting ready for his numerous on-camera appearances. Charles Krauthammer, a conservative lion, you will be missed, sir. Hopefully you're resting well, and may God bless your soul. 6:30, Kevin Miller in the morning on 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug. 6:35. Let's go to London. Simon Owen joining us from Fox News Radio on KIDO Talk Radio. Simon, good morning.
Morning, Kevin.
So, Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump possibly meeting around the 4th of July?
Well, probably a little bit later than that, but probably quite soon. Mid-July, we think, is most likely. We have confirmation now from the White House that John Bolton, President Trump's national security advisor, is on his way to Moscow. He's set to travel there next week. We'll also have meetings in London and Rome. And this is confirmation of something that has long been rumored, that the US and Russia are looking at setting up a summit between President Trump and President Putin. And we think it will be probably based around a trip that the president is making to Europe anyway. He's due to attend a NATO summit in Belgium and then pay a short visit to the UK. And so it looks like if this meeting can be organized quickly enough, it will take place probably, we think, in Vienna, Austria, at some point around those other engagements.
What is the view of Putin in your part of the world, Simon?
Well, he is certainly among Western European governments still seen as a bad guy, and they are, I think, a little concerned at some of the things that President Trump has said recently, not least when he went to the G7 Summit of Rich Nations in Canada a couple of weeks ago. The president dropped a bit of a bombshell at the start of it when he said it was time that Russia was readmitted into that group, and Russia was expelled a few years ago after it seized a chunk of Ukraine. And the British Prime Minister, Theresa May, when President Trump made that idea, she said before discussions could begin on any of this, we would have to ensure Russia is amending its ways and taking a different route. And so Western European governments still have issues with Putin. They say he's not done what he said he'd do in terms of stabilizing the Ukraine crisis. He's also been accused of interfering not just in the American elections, but in European votes. His administration is accused of complicity in the attempted assassination using a nerve agent of a former Russian spy here in England a couple of months ago. And so there is skepticism about Putin as he enters his 4th term in office. And at the same time, the head of NATO, a man called Jens Stoltenberg, was asked about this potential meeting yesterday, and he was actually fairly positive. He said he welcomes it. He says that dialogue between these two leaders is important, and he said that if they were to meet, that would not be in any way contradicting NATO policies.
Simon Owen joining us here at KIDO Talk Radio, and depending on what you think, anything can happen when you have a summit with President Trump. The G7 found out that. The leader of North Korea found out. I wonder if Vladimir Putin will find out about that. Well,
I mean, it depends, doesn't it? Because, if you if you look at the trend, the president has been fairly warm and positive when it comes to some nationalist, alleged authoritarian leaders like the Prime Minister of Hungary or the Russian president he's spoken very warmly about in the past. And the clashes have been with more traditional American allies like Britain, France and Germany over trade and defense spending and this sort of thing. And so, we face this slightly unusual prospect of the president potentially coming to a NATO summit and having big fights with European leaders who he says have been taking advantage of the US for years and should be putting their hands in their pockets and spending a lot more on defense and stop relying on the US military to look after Europe. But then on the same trip, he may also be seen smiling and shaking hands and probably speaking pretty warmly about President Putin. If you set up a one-on-one summit, a whole event based around one meeting, you're probably not doing it to have arguments. You're doing it so that you can talk about how, there's the potential for warming relations up and that sort of thing. So it would look unusual if the NATO summit was all about fighting with allies and then the Russia summit was all very warm and friendly. But, President Trump makes the point that he has this very unorthodox approach to diplomacy, and these are his opportunities to show that, what he can do and whether they can work or not.
Simon, as always, with the president, must-see television. We'll see how Vladimir Putin plays it off. We'll see if that summit pulls off. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
All right, Simon Onan joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning here. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And, of course, remembering Charles Krauthammer, who gave us so much when we're talking about the written word, the spoken word. And Charles Krauthammer, we'll remember him throughout the day, a conservative lion and icon. And really, when we're talking about a life that matters, and as we said, Charles Krauthammer was paralyzed from a 2013 Fox News special. He discusses that issue and how he dealt with it to our own Brett Baer.
It was the end of my first year of medical school. We're doing neurology. We're studying the spinal cord, of all things. My classmate and I decided to skip the morning session. Beautiful July day. We play tennis instead.
After their game, they head back to class for the afternoon session. But along the way, they stop at a pool on campus, set down their books, and pull off their sneakers.
We're very sweaty. It's very hot. So we go for a swim, we take a few dives, and I hit my head on the bottom of the pool.
A freak accident, says Krauthammer.
The amazing thing is there was not even a cut on my head. It just hit at precisely the angle where all the force was transmitted to one spot, and that is the cervical vertebra, which severed the spinal cord.
When did you realize that the accident was life-altering?
The second it happened.
You knew?
I knew exactly what happened. I knew why I wasn't able to move, and I knew what that meant.
At the bottom of the pool,
I wasn't getting out. I knew, yeah.
Cindy in Caldwell with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Cindy.
Yeah, I just have to comment on that story. Beautiful story. Sometimes we are all refined, through suffering. And my hero, the Faith, of course, she is a quadriplegic, as Johnny Erickson taught and worked in one of her camps. That said, Kevin, about this gentleman, yesterday when Lars Larson was talking about Charles Krauthammer, iron sharpens iron, and that is, I hope, the people of Idaho realize what a gem you are in the gem state. Everything, and you and Ray and I need to listen to this no matter what is said, because like our president, you are facing, I would say, the most gathered together group of social globalists around town. And, they were talking about Charles, and they were saying things like he's bold. He made a statement once that you be passionate with what you believe, but then do something, like Brigitte Gabriel was saying yesterday, do something, act, go do something. And you know what, Kevin, I just want you to know that you guys are going to have to stand strong. You are in that category. Never diminish being fired or not, because you know what? God's hand is in all those things. He may open a door and close a door, but you're going to go on. So be blessed.
Well, Cindy, let me jump in for a minute.
Sure.
I've been studying a lot of online things, and they say, you should be everybody has a job that they're expert at. And you, Cindy, you're a nurse, you've done this, you've done that. I think I'm an expert at being fired.
No, I think God closes the doors because he wanted you for such a time as this, like Esther. You can look back at people that I look at as heroes and goes, oh, really? You may think, but his hand is in everything, whether it be even having, story after story of people that are moving along. And you know what? Look, would you have been in Idaho? Would you be able to hold this conservative edge? I'm sure Mr. Krauthammer would have, gone back like Johnny. She had the same diving accident and said, what did I ever go do that for? But you know what? You just press on. And in supporting our president, what a blessing. Although, yesterday, as Brigitte said, I did call. Right after she got off, I called, 40, actually it was 41, I believe, of the Republicans. They're not really conservative constitutionalists. That conservative bill they signed out against. And the Democrats, just like a bunch of head lice, they will stick together. When I was a school nurse, you cannot get those head lice sometimes off of a hair follicle. You've got to tell the parent, go get some Rid. But go figure this. You have 40 Republicans. They're calling themselves Republicans. Jump on over and stand up against that bill. Tragic. And really, they think they're going to do something next week. They are the most feckless, ineffectual, do-nothing Congress. That our president, I just don't even know, except by the grace of God, how he gets up every morning to deal with the bold-faced lies. Things that come out of their mouth, Nancy Pelosi. Seriously, it was a Democrat president. They're talking about internment camps. He's the one that put 120,000 Japanese in internment camps. He was a Democrat. They twist, turn, but you know what? The devil's a liar, and the truth is never in him. So everything that they do, Kevin, you stand strong, just like Charles Krauthammer. You have that caliber of people that you surround yourself with, and just don't be diminished by the opposite of someone who calls in and speaks just vitriolic hatred words. I mean, just earlier this morning, our president is crazy. He's childlike. He's deplorable. Or no, I'm deplorable. You just never stoop that low. So good for you. Stand strong, you and Rehemiah, and we're just going to persevere. And that's the deal. Never give up, Kevin Miller.
God bless, Cindy. Thank you.
God bless Kevin Miller.
Take care. All right, our friend Cindy. 580-5436, 580-KIDO, the mainstream media, the lamestream media, Sarah Palin calls it, continues to vilify conservatives. Coming up next, Corey Lewandowski versus Chris Cuomo, plus more of your calls. And if you haven't heard this clip from the president, you have people condemning him. We are also remembering Charles Krauthammer. I know I just hit you with a lot, but this is what the president has said about what's going on in Mexico.
I mean, we're getting some real beauties. Mexico is doing nothing for us except taking our money and sending us drugs. They're doing nothing. They could solve this problem in 2 minutes. You wouldn't even have to do anything. But they don't do it. They talk a good game, but they don't do it.
580-5436, 580-KIDO. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, talking about the president, his comments about if Mexico wanted to stop the drugs, they could do so now, number one. Number two, taking your calls on remembering a conservative legend, Charles Krauthammer. And I don't know how many people, obviously you're smart, and if you're smart, you love writing. Writers like Charles Krauthammer were always so intimidating to me because they were such a joy to read, right? Such a joy to read. And the thoughts that go into their words, simply amazing. An artist, a talent, an intellect that we probably won't see ever again. David in Boise, good morning. You're on with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, David.
Yeah, Kevin. I listen to the radio, and I get disappointed in our congressman not helping our president. So I thought of a way of bypassing him. Instead of giving to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, send that money into President Trump direct. And tell him it was for the wall. If you want to donate, I'd send it direct too. I think that would stop all the bickering and waiting for our congressmen to put down their beaker of booze and their hand out for money and looking for the next block party. I'm tired of watching our guys do nothing. No support, nothing. Let's bypass them. That's my comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bypassing Congress, I think the challenge that we have, and it's a dirty little secret, and Donald Trump ran against it. Others in Idaho tried to run against it, and they weren't as successful. And that is, you have the lobbyists, you have major corporations that have a vested interest. Now, sometimes these groups, they pick the right people, like Club for Growth, they backed our friend Russ Fulcher. Other times, they pick their own people, and that not all lobbying groups are the same. And I don't really know. Our system isn't perfect, but do we really want to mess with something? We messed with healthcare, and we made it 100 times worse. It's so challenging with healthcare, and we have to laugh about it because who wants to cry in the morning? We have to laugh about it because even the fix would be worse than what we have now, so it's almost better to just let it burn. Speaking of burning, if you missed it, here was the big debate in Congress. Remember, I don't know, when do we ever lose faith? When have you ever lost faith in somebody? They mean well. They say they're going to do something. No, my wife, Dorothy, she has so much patience with me because I always have this project. Oh, I'm going to do this. And so I do all the research, and I never follow through, but she never judges me on that. And, God bless her for having so much patience, and then I, collect things. Well, that doesn't fit. Are you going to send it back? No. Might need it for something. Anyway, sorry to confess the workings of my inner workings as a hoarder, but on a more serious level, people continue to disappoint you. The best analogy, Charlie Brown and Lucy with the football. How many times are we going to be Charlie Brown? I'll tell you what Congress is up to and what they didn't get done in a minute. First, it's 6:56. Still have a lot of time this hour to hear from you. KIDO Talk Radio, time for traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work. That one always gets me. Thank you, Larry Gebert. I was just going to try and be quick, try to be flippant, emphasize try. Thank you for letting us know it's going to be hot. I was just saying the other day, I go, well, it hasn't gotten us yet, right? We've got through the longest day of the year, and we haven't had the triple digits yet, but they're just around the corner. Max, Garden City with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Max.
Good morning, Kevin. You're right about the procrastination issue. Probably more than anybody on the radio, I've heard you say to people, yeah, we're going to have you, call me back, we'll have you back on, we'll have you on. Ooh. Yeah, we'll do something. Yeah. And it never happens, Kevin. You are words in the wind, my friend.
Wow.
I'm a friend, or if I wasn't a friend,
hold on.
Keep on doing it.
Thank you for holding me accountable. Thank you for holding me accountable.
In China, we say you are words in the wind.
I'm better than dust in the wind, at least right now.
Now, the other comment is about Mexico. Let's look at it objectively. We have a nation of about 130 million people on our border.
Right.
That is openly hostile toward us. They want our money, and I can't imagine how much money is transferred to Mexico from family members.
That's their largest source of revenue, even more than their oil money.
So, they're hostile toward us. Their president and their leadership are in the pocket of the drug cartels. The people are beleaguered and embattled. They're being held hostage, a whole nation held hostage. And while we're saying, we'll liberate Libya, what a bunch of garbage, we need to liberate Mexico. I am now all in favor of pulling our troops out of the Middle East, let them do what they're going to do to each other, and let's roll into Mexico.
Thanks, Max.